Aloha everybody, this is Kwanzaa from Hawaii Real Estate Exam Prep. In this video we're going to be going over 100 state questions for your Hawaii Real Estate Exam. These questions are going to be taken straight from the state exams in our exam prep. Usually in our state exams you only get the answers at the very end to simulate the real exam day experience. But for the sake of this video we're going to have the answer and explanation pop up after every question. So let's get started with our first question. An exclusive right to buy contract in Hawaii. A is equivalent to an open listing agreement. B requires the signature of the principal only. C must be indicated as such in the buyer representation agreement. Or D is illegal. The answer is C. Buyers can enter into an exclusive right to buy agreement, but it must clearly be identified as such in the buyer representation agreement. If Robert lost his property in a tax foreclosure, A. He could redeem it by paying the Hawaii State Tax Collector all the back taxes, plus costs and interest, within 1 year. B. He could get it back by paying the back taxes anytime during the next 6 months. C. He could redeem it by reimbursing the new owner for all the taxes, all costs, expenses, and interest within 1 year of the sale. Or D. He could get it back by paying the Hawaii State Tax Collector all the back taxes within 1 year. The answer is C. Hawaii has a 12-month tax deed redemption period for properties lost through tax lien foreclosure. The taxpayer must reimburse the new owner for the purchase price, all costs and expenses which the purchaser was required to pay, including the fee, for recording the deed, and interest at the rate of 12% a year. An optionor and an optionee make a contract for an option on a commercial piece of property. If the optionee decides to exercise his option, when must he do? A. He must exercise his option within 6 months. B. He must exercise his option within 8 months. C. He must exercise his option under the terms of the contract. Or D. He can exercise his option whenever he chooses. The answer is C. Whatever the parties agree to under contract decides the time and price of an option. All the following are necessary for a broker to be entitled to receive a commission except A. Price and terms acceptable to the seller. B. A signed listing agreement. C. A ready, willing, and able buyer. Or D. A binding contract between seller and purchaser. The answer is B. Having a contract between a willing seller and a willing buyer, and a closing generally leads to the broker receiving a commission. Simply having a list agreement does not ensure a commission. If after an investigation, a payment is made from the Real Estate Recovery Fund due to the improper activities of a licensee, what happens when the payment is made? A. The licensee is subject to a fine of $5,000. B. The Hawaii Real Estate Commission takes no further action if the licensee repays the fund within 60 days. C. The licensee's license is automatically revoked. Or D. The licensee's license is automatically suspended. The answer is C. As soon as a payment is made from the Real Estate Recovery Fund, the license is automatically revoked. To regain the license, the licensee must repay the recovery fund. An owner advertised beautiful acreage with only $5,000 down. The owner will personally finance down payment. Would this be in violation of the Truth in Lending Act? A. Yes, acreage is not exempt from Regulation Z. B. Yes, since a down payment was stated. C. No, owners are not covered by Regulation Z. Or D. No, brokers can advertise the down payment. The answer is C. Regulation Z applies only to institutions, not individuals selling their own property. A person takes the Hawaii Real Estate Exam on November 1st, 2022. What is the latest date on which he or she may apply for a salesperson's license without having to retake a pre-licensing course? A. January 1st, 2022. B. December 1st, 2022. C. November 1st, 2026. Or D. November 1st, 2024. The answer is D. A licensee candidate has 2 years from the first examination to pass all parts of the examination and apply for their license before they have to take and pass another pre-licensing course. An employee of an association will start to rent units on behalf of the association. What doesn't have to happen for the employee to rent the units? A. The employee needs a real estate license. B. The employee needs 67% of owners to approve. C. The employee needs to live in the building. Or D. The employee needs BOD approval. The answer is C. the employee does not need to live in the building in order to start to rent the units on behalf of the association. All the following are requirements for obtaining a Hawaii broker's license, except A, having been actively engaged as a licensed salesperson for at least 3 years full-time. B, having successfully completed 60 hours of approved real estate courses. C, having a reputation for honesty, truthfulness, and financial integrity. Or D, having successfully completed 80 hours of approved real estate courses. The answer is B. In Hawaii, the applicant for a broker's exam must have successfully completed 80 hours of approved real estate courses, be a full-time licensed salesperson for 3 years, and have a reputation for honesty, truthfulness, and financial integrity. The timeshare 7-day right of rescission must be A, all other options are correct, B, written, C, oral, or D, clearly stated. The answer is A. The timeshare 7-day right of rescission must be either clearly stated, oral, or written. An agent moves to Hawaii from another state. 6 years later, the agent receives a disciplinary notice from the state he or she came from. How many days does the agent have to notify the Real Estate Commission about the disciplinary action? A, 7 days, B, 60 days, C, 10 days, or D, 30 days. The answer is D. Licensees must provide the commission of any disciplinary decision issued against them in another jurisdiction, such as license revocation, suspension, or other disciplinary action by another state or federal agency, for any reason provided by the licensing laws within 30 days of written notification. When can a landlord evict a disabled blind or disabled tenant from the premises? A, if the tenant makes modifications to the unit at his expense. B, if the tenant gets a dog when the apartment policy doesn't allow pets. C, if the tenant parks in a handicapped parking space. Or D, if the tenant breaks one of the rules of the unit. The answer is D. The law allows accommodation for tenants for disabilities, guide dog for a blind person. However, this does not mean that they are able to break the rules that are in place of the unit. A real estate broker in Hawaii may not A, advertise properties without placing the listing price in the ad. B, give written authorization to sales agents to deposit money into the client trust account. C, allow sales agents to disperse funds from the client trust account. Or D, charge a commission rate higher than other brokers in the community. The answer is C. Commission rates are always negotiable between the seller and the broker. The broker may give written authorization to a sales agent to deposit money into the client trust account, but may not allow sales agents to disperse money from the client trust account. Brokers do not have to put the listing price in advertisements. The Employee Retirement System, ERS mortgage loans. A, the applicant must have at least 25% interest in the property. B, assist borrowers in home acquisition, construction, improvement, refinancing, or purchasing, leasehold property in a fee. C, may be on the owner's principal residence or a 2 or 3 unit apartment building. Or D, are available for members and pensioners of county, state, and federal governments. The answer is B. ERS loans can be used to assist borrowers in home acquisition, construction, improvement, refinancing, or purchasing leasehold property in fee. An ERS loan is available to county and state employees, but not federal. The borrower must have at least 50% interest in the property. The loan must be on the owner's principal residence and not investment or rental properties. A broker has a listing for a small office building. The property is in excellent condition and produces a good, steady income. The broker's salesperson decides to purchase it as an investment. If the broker's salesperson wishes to buy this property, the salesperson must A, obtain permission from the Hawaii Real Estate Commission. B, inform the owner in writing that the salesperson is a licensee when making an offer. C, have some third party purchase the property on the salesperson's behalf so that the owner does not learn the true identity of the purchaser. Or D, resign as the broker's agent and make an offer after the owner has retained another broker. The answer is B. The salesperson will have to inform the owner in writing that the salesperson is a licensee when making the offer. Which of the following is not a function of the Bureau of Conveyance's office? A, the Bureau researches uniform commercial. Code UCC filing requests. B, the Bureau examines, records, indexes, and microfilms regular system and land court documents. C, the Bureau issues land court certificates of title. Or D, the Bureau issues land court title insurance? The answer is D. The Bureau of Conveyances maintains an accurate, timely, and permanent record system for title to real property. The Bureau examines, records, indexes, and microfilms over 344,000 regular system and land court documents and maps annually, issues land court certificates of title, certifies copies of matters of record, and researches UCC requests. Hawaii is one of 2 states in the nation with a single statewide recording system. Which of the following is correct when a broker establishes an account to hold money belonging to others? A. The broker must keep accurate and detailed records for at least 7 years. B. An individual account is required for each transaction. C. The account cannot be in the same bank as the client's personal checking account. Or D. The broker must keep accurate and detailed records for at least 3 years. The answer is D. A broker does not have to open a new account for each earnest money deposit received. However, the broker must keep careful records to accurately account for all funds for at least 3 years. The broker can have several clearly named accounts in the bank. In Hawaii, civil actions can be commenced only within the periods prescribed by the Statute of Limitations. Which of the following is incorrect? A. Civil actions must be commenced within 6 years for an action for recovery of a debt founded on a contract. B. Civil actions must be commenced within 15 years for an adverse possession claim or prescriptive easement. C. Civil actions must be commenced within 2 years for an action for libel, slander, forfeitures, or damages to persons and property. Or D. Civil actions must be commenced within 4 years for an action based on the grounds of fraud or mistake. The answer is B. The prescriptive period is 20 years for an adverse possession claim or prescriptive easement. Other time periods include 2 years for libel, 4 years for fraud or mistake, and 6 years for debt recovery founded on a contract. A landlord who is renting a condo as a long-term rental wants to convert it into a vacation rental. Regarding the conversion, how many days' notice does the landlord need to give the tenants? A. Conversion, 150 days written notice. B. Conversion 100 days, written notice. C. Conversion 90 days written notice. Or D. Conversion 120 days written notice. The answer is D. The landlord needs to give the tenants 120 days notice regarding the conversion. In which of the following situations would you attach a plain language addendum? A. A timeshare unit selling for $27,500 fee simple. B. An undeveloped vacant lot near Puna on the Big Island selling for $21,000. C. An oceanfront leasehold condo selling for $85,000. Or D. A 3-bedroom home on 2 acres in Kula being purchased by Korean nationals. The answer is B. State law mandates the use of a plain language addendum for transactions of less than $25,000. Seller property condition disclosures must be delivered to the buyer no later than A. At the time of the home inspection, B. Prior to the buyer's making a written offer, C. 10 days after acceptance of the offer, or D. At the time that the seller agrees to the offer. The answer is C. The seller's real property disclosure statement must be delivered to the buyer within 10 days of acceptance of the offer. Otherwise, the buyer has a right to rescind within 15 days. A real estate company has entered into agency agreements with both a seller and a buyer. The buyer is interested in making an offer on the seller's property. Can the broker assist in this transaction? A. No. The real estate company would then be a dual agent. B. Yes, if both the buyer and seller give their consent to dual agency. C. Yes, as long as written agency agreements have been entered into with both parties. Or D. Yes, if the seller has agreed to pay the commission. The answer is B. If both parties agree in writing, then the brokerage can represent both parties. Agency is about relationships. How the agent is paid is a separate issue. Under an FHA graduated payment mortgage, which fluctuates over the term of the loan, A. Finance charge, B. Monthly payments, C. Annual rate, or D. Interest rate. The answer is B. Graduated payment mortgages are aimed at those who expect to see their earnings rise over the next 5 to 10 years. The payments for interest and principal are less than the actual costs in the early years and gradually rise to make up the difference. A customer contacts a real estate office and states that they have an interest in purchasing a home. Without entering into an agency relationship with the buyer, a salesperson can do all of the following except A. Disclose the amount of a previous offer from another buyer. B. Explain to the buyer about buyer agency, seller agency, and dual agency. C. Give the buyer information on properties for sale in the area. Or D. Provide the buyer with information on mortgage interest rates and terms. The answer is A. A salesperson working with a customer cannot disclose offers received from other buyers. Which of the following is required to increase the rent for a residential lease in Hawaii? A. 90 days notice for a 1-year lease that begins January 1st and ends December 31st. B. 7 days notice in a week-to-week tenancy. C. 45 days notice is required in an estate for years. Or D. 45 days notice in a month-to-month tenancy. The answer is D. The landlord must give a 45-day notice in a month-to-month tenancy, while 15 days notice is required in a week-to-week tenancy. The landlord cannot raise the rent during the term of an estate for years, since the rent is fixed for the term of the lease. A 1-year lease that begins January 1st and ends December 31st is also an estate for years, and the landlord cannot raise the rent since the rent is fixed for the term of the lease. In Hawaii, which of the following are true about condominiums? A. Amending the bylaws requires a 67% vote of the owners. B. Amending the declaration requires a 75% vote of the owners. C. Removing a property from the condominium property regime requires the unanimous approval of all owners. Or D. Removing the property from the condominium property regime requires an 80% vote of the owners. The answer is A. To amend the bylaws requires a 67% vote of the owners. Amending the declaration requires 67% of the common interest. Removing the property from a CPR requires 80% of the common interest. Which of the following is false? A. A brokerage firm may associate or employ a salesperson or broker salesperson who resides on an island different from that of the principal place of business, provided that all agency disclosures required by Section 16-99-3.1 shall include that the principal place of business is located on a different island. B. A brokerage firm may associate or employ a salesperson or broker salesperson who resides on an island different from that of the principal place of business, only if they have an additional brokerage on the same island. C. A brokerage firm may associate or employ a salesperson or broker salesperson who resides on an island different from that of the principal place of business, provided that any advertisements on an island different from that of the principal place of business shall disclose the name of the brokerage firm and the address and phone number of the principal place of business. Or D. A brokerage firm may associate or employ a salesperson or broker salesperson who resides on an island different from that of the principal place of business, provided that the salesperson or broker salesperson shall not maintain or advertise a place of business other than the principal place of business. The answer is B. A brokerage firm does not have to have an additional brokerage on the same island to employ an off-island salesperson or broker salesperson. The brokerage firm may associate or employ a salesperson or broker salesperson who resides on an island different from that of the principal place of business, provided that 1. The salesperson or broker salesperson shall not maintain or advertise a place of business other than the principal place of business. 2. Any advertisements on an island different from that of the principal place of business shall disclose the name of the brokerage firm and the address and phone number of the principal place of business. 3. All agency disclosures required by Section 1699-3.1 shall include that the principal place of business is located on a different island. The brokerage does not need to be on the same island of the salesperson or broker salesperson if these are true. An eligible borrower under the Hawaii Hula Mai Loan Program may A. Have any amount of annual income. B. Previously been granted a Hula Mai loan. C. Be an out-of-state resident. Or D. Be a owner-occupant for the duration of the loan. The answer is D. An eligible borrower under the Hula Mai program must be at least 18 years old, be a citizen or declarant alien of the U.S., and a bona fide resident of Hawaii. The applicant may not have been previously granted a Hula Mai loan, must be an owner-occupant, and not have an adjusted household income that exceeds the prescribed limit. In Hawaii, Dower and Curtesy are recognized, A, but not usually enforced, B, on a voluntary basis, C, for new estates, or D, for properties owned and marriages that occurred prior to July 1st, 1977. The answer is D. In Hawaii, Dower and Curtesy are recognized for properties owned and marriages that occurred prior to July 1st, 1977. Under Hawaii's Uniform Probate Code and each spouse's right of elective share, no new estates of Dower or Curtesy have been allowed to come into existence since July 1st, 1977. Which is true of a second mortgage? A. It cannot be used as a security instrument. B. It is not negotiable. C. It is usually issued at a higher rate of interest. Or D. It has priority over the first mortgage. The answer is C. Second mortgages carry higher risk for lender because they're second in line after the first mortgage holder in case of foreclosure. This added exposure typically results in higher interest rates. On the island of Hawaii, the U.S. Department of the Interior Geological Survey has classified various hazard zones for lava flows. The classification of a property in a hazard zones may affect the A. Availability of flood insurance, B. Availability of property and/or liability insurance, C. Availability of seller's disclosure form on the property, or D. Availability of an SMA permit. The answer is B. The hazard zones may affect the availability, limits, and costs of property and/or liability insurance. Other effects of a property located in a hazard zone include volcanic activity that may occur, including lava tubes and periodic earthquakes. A person who believes that they have been illegally discriminated against may file a complaint with the Hawaii A. Civil Rights Commission, B. Governor, C. Real Estate Commission, or D. Board of Realtors. The answer is A. Fair housing complaints in Hawaii are generally directed to the Civil Rights Commission. Hawaii law specifies that when a structure goes over the property line and is partially located on a neighboring property and in a residential neighborhood, the structure, A, may be allowed to remain if the amount of the discrepancy is 3 inches or less. B, may be allowed to remain if the amount of the discrepancy is 9 inches or less. C, may be allowed to remain if the amount of the discrepancy is 6 inches or less. Or D is considered an encroachment. The answer is C. Hawaii law states that any structure that results in a minor or de minimis discrepancy is not considered an encroachment and will be allowed to remain until it is removed or substantially damaged when it is 6 inches or less to other residential property. In Hawaii, a contractor does not pay Phillips Concrete for their supplies for an improvement made on 1812 Kanapu Drive. How long does Phillips Concrete have to file the lien for the monies owed to them? A. Within 30 days of the completion of the improvement. B. Within 45 days of the completion of the improvement. C. Within 60 days of the completion of the improvement. Or D. Within 90 days of the completion of the improvement. The answer is B. Phillips Concrete has to file the lien within 45 days of the completion of the improvement. The agent of a distressed listing cannot purchase the property themselves for how long after the listing agreement is terminated? A. 30 days. B. 90 days. C. 365 days. Or D. 120 days. The answer is C. The agent of a distressed listing must wait for 365 days after the listing agreement has terminated to purchase the property themselves. Which of the following legal descriptions is not used in the state of Hawaii? A. Subdivision and lot numbers. B. Government rectangular survey system. C. Recorded plats and parcels. Or D. Meets and bounds. The answer is B. The government rectangular survey system is not used in Hawaii. All the following pairs of standard purchase contract terms are mutually exclusive. You must choose one or the other, except A. Mediation and arbitration. B. Unilateral one-time right to extend closing date, and time is of the essence. C. Buyer to earn interest on deposits, and buyer not to earn interest. Or D. Survey and staking. The answer is A. When disputes arise in a real estate purchase contract and the buyer and seller can't resolve the matter, mediation is an option. If mediation fails, arbitration becomes an option. So the standard contract lists mediation and arbitration in one line item. They are both applicable to dispute resolution. The rest of the answers provided are either/or scenarios. Hawaii Administrative Rule 16-99-11D requires that a leasehold property advertised for sale in any medium shall be identified by what word? A. Leased. B. Fee, simple leasehold. C. Ground leased unit. or D. Leasehold? The answer is D. Hawaii Administrative Rules. 1699-11D requires that a leasehold property advertised for sale in any medium shall be identified by the word leasehold. When do dower and curtesy rights become effective in Hawaii? A. When a creditor lays claim to the property. B. At the time of the marriage. C. When the couple is divorced. Or D. At the moment of a spouse's death. The answer is D. In Hawaii, curtesy and dower become effective at the moment of a spouse's death. Which of the following is correct in regard to vacation requirements in the Hawaii Landlord-Tenant Code? A. The landlord must give the tenant 7 days notice on a week-to-week rental. B. The tenant must give the landlord 30 days notice on a month-to-month rental. C. The landlord must give at least 1 year's notice if the property is going through a condo conversion or if the building will be demolished. Or D. The landlord must give the tenant 45 days notice on a month-to-month rental. The answer is D. The landlord must give the tenant 45 days notice to vacate on a month-to-month rental. If the tenant finds another rental and moves out before the 45 days are up, the landlord must prorate the rent and refund it to the tenant. The landlord must give at least 120 days notice if the property is going through a condo conversion or if the building will be demolished. The landlord must give the tenant 15 days notice on a week-to-week rental. The tenant must give landlord 28 days notice on a month-to-month rental. A broker offers the seller the following as inducement to sign his listing agreement. I'll buy your property if it doesn't sell in 90 days. With this inducement, the broker must do all of the following except A. Market the property as if no special agreement existed. Buy the property at the agreed upon figure at any time during the 90 days. C. Show the seller evidence of the broker's financial ability to buy the property. Or D. Show the seller written details of the plan before any contract of guarantee is signed. The answer is B. The offer states after 90 days, so the broker is not obligated to buy the property until the 90-day expiration. The broker must indicate all terms and special considerations so that the seller is fully informed and not surprised. The broker must be able to substantiate her offer to purchase. All the following are true in regards to apartment ownership in Hawaii, except A. Individual apartments in a condominium are conveyed and are financed as if they were single-family dwellings on separate pieces of land. Ownership in a cooperative usually requires purchase of stock in the cooperative corporation or association. C. Cooperative owners can usually sell their units only with prior board of director approval. Or D. Condominium apartments must be on fee simple land. The answer is D. Condominium apartments in Hawaii may be on fee simple land or leasehold land. Which of the following is a disadvantage of a land trust? A. The land trust can be used as an effective replacement for the agreement of sale. B. After the trust is established, it is possible to keep the names of the beneficial interest confidential. C. A land trust can permit an owner to divide his beneficial interest into smaller units of ownership so that it can be given as gifts over a period of years. Or D. Actual owners must be disclosed on zoning changes. The answer is D. The land trust does not allow confidential ownership when applying for a zoning change. Actual owners must be disclosed on any governmental application for zoning. The seller is required to provide a termite certificate under the terms of a sales contract and request that their broker to order one. The broker does so, knowing she will receive a referral fee from the pest control company. Is this a violation of the license law? A. Yes, special fees may be paid to the broker only by the seller. B. No, as long as the fee is disclosed and consent is received from the client. C. Yes, a broker may not receive a referral fee. Or D. No, as long as the fee is less than $50. The answer is B. A broker may accept a fee or rebate from a vendor if the fee is disclosed and consent is received from the client. A developer is looking at constructing a luxury condominium and was told the project would require a SMA permit. What area is the developer looking at for the site of the project? A. Oceanside. B. Native Hawaiian lands. C. On a hillside of an inclined parcel of land. Or D. Urban district. The answer is A. An SMA permit is for oceanside developments. The finance charges recorded on the truth in lending statements would include all of the following except A. Insurance premiums for mortgage insurance payment. B. Loan fees charged by the lender, So C, recording fees and title insurance premiums, or D, discount points and service fees? The answer is C. Recording fees and title insurance premiums are considered legal, not financing fees, and therefore are not part of the agreement. Small farms of between 1/2 acre and 2 acres would most likely be found on land zones: A, urban, B, conservation, C, agricultural, or D, rural. The answer is D. Small farms of between 1/2 acre and 2 acres would most likely be found on rural land. In Hawaii, an owner-occupant can claim a tax annual home exemption for all of the following except: A, an owner of a condominium or cooperative apartment; B, a vendor in an agreement of sale; C, a person with a residential lease of 5 years or more who is responsible for paying all property taxes on the home; or D, a person buying under an agreement of sale. The answer is B. The vendor in an agreement of sale is not an owner-occupant. The vendee is normally responsible for payment of real property taxes in any event. The others qualify as long as they are owner-occupants. Lava flows over Kimo Apana's property on the island of Hawaii. Who now owns the portion of Kimo's land that the lava has flown onto? A, the county of Hawaii now owns the land covered by the lava. B, the state of Hawaii owns the portion of land the lava has covered. C, the state of Hawaii owns the portion of land the lava has covered, but must pay Kimo for the property. Or D, Kimo Apana still owns the land the lava flowed on. The answer is D. The private property owner retains title to their land even if it is covered by lava. The state of Hawaii now owns new land created by lava flowing into the ocean. Hawaii law allows tenancy by the entirety to be held by A, a mother and her daughter; B, a husband and wife only; C, the parties of a reciprocal beneficiary relationship, a civil union relationship, or a husband and wife; or D, a business owner in his own limited liability company. The answer is C. Tenancy by entirety is a form of ownership in property held by a husband and wife, civil union relationship, or a Hawaii registered reciprocal beneficiaries. A source of information on the lot's dimensions, size, and nature of improvements, and current assessed value of a property a licensee plans to list is A, Multiple Listing Service; B, Bureau of Conveyances; C, Land Court; or D, Real Property Tax Office. The answer is D. A source of information on the lot's dimensions, size, and nature of improvements, and current assessed value of a property a licensee plans to list is the Real Property Tax Office. A seller listed her house for sale with a broker on January 5th. The listing agreement was to last 5 months. In March, the seller decided that the house was no longer for sale. Which of the following is true? A, the Hawaii Real Estate Commission will decide if the seller's action is justifiable. B, the seller has canceled the agreement and there are no penalties. C, the seller is required by law to leave his house on the market until June 5th. Or D, the seller has withdrawn the broker's authority to sell the property and may be subject to a penalty. The answer is D. The listing agreement may be canceled, but the seller may be responsible for some expenses. The Hawaii Real Estate Commissions will not be involved. Which of the following persons must have a real estate license in order to transact business? A caretaker of a large apartment building who shews apartments to prospective tenants as part of his or her regular duties. B, person who owns a sixplex and personally manages the building, collects rents, and shows the apartments to prospective tenants. C, person who has his or her parents' power of attorney to negotiate the sale of the parent's residence. Or D, person who negotiates the sales of entire businesses, including their stock equipment and buildings, for a fee. The answer is D. One does not need a real estate license to sell personal property, i.e., stock equipment, but does need one to sell the building. If the owner of the leased fee interest offers to sell the leased fee any Hawaii condominium, who has right of first refusal to purchase? A, Board of Directors of the Association of Apartment Owners; B, Hawaii Housing Authority; C, any U.S. citizen; or D, any buyer who can come up with the money. The answer is A. The Board of Directors of the Association of Apartment Owners has a 120-day right of first refusal when the fee simple land is offered for sale in a condominium in Hawaii. In Hawaii, what types of loans does the state usury law apply to? A. Second mortgages, when carried by private individuals such as a friend or relative. B. Conventional loans, C. FHA and VA loans. Or D. Seller financing, such as purchase money or agreement of sale. The answer is A. The state usury law applies to second mortgage when carried by private individuals, not lenders other than a seller. In Hawaii, the conveyance tax levied by the state on the seller of property is based on A. Earnest money, B. The amount of the mortgage, C. The selling price, or D. The tune of the purchase. The answer is C. The conveyance tax is based on the sale price and the rate is currently 10 cents per $100, or 1 mil. To calculate the conveyance tax, multiply the sales price by 0.001. Under RESPA, the lender is required to provide a detailed good faith estimate statement at the time of loan application, or within 3 business days to A. Neither the buyer or the seller, B. The seller, C. The buyer, or D. The buyer and the seller. The answer is C. The good faith part of this requirement is the key element to consumers. By standardizing the forms and disclosures used by lenders, borrowers are no longer surprised by substantial and hidden costs at the time of closing. All the following are true regarding the land court system in Hawaii except A. The deed is accompanied by a transfer certificate of title, TCT. B. Title is recorded at the county recorder's office. C. Registration is done by the registrar of the land in Honolulu. Or D. Title transfers only upon registration of the deed in the records of the land court. The answer is B. In Hawaii, registration is not done at the county recorder's office, as is done in many mainland states. Instead, the registrar of the land court in Honolulu registers the deeds. A deed in the land court system must be registered before title transfers, whereas title transfers in the regular system upon delivery of the deed. How are members of the Hawaii Real Estate Commission selected? A. By the Hawaii Association of Realtors. B. Public election. C. Appointed by the governor. Or D. Elected by real estate licensees. The answer is C. The governor makes the appointments to the Hawaii Real Estate Commission. A unit owner, including the developer, must start paying the maintenance fee when A. The declaration is submitted. B. The board of directors is elected. C. The certificate of occupancy to that particular unit is issued by the county agency. Or D. The public report is approved. The answer is C. A unit owner, including the developer, must start paying the maintenance fee when the certificate of occupancy to that particular unit is issued by the county agency. All of the following information is required to be made available to an owner of a condominium apartment in Hawaii, except A. Any maintenance fee delinquencies of 30 days or more, B. A membership list of all owners, C. The minutes of all meetings, along with the recorded vote of each board member on all motions, or D. The budgets and income statements. The answer is A. Delinquencies of 90 days or more must be disclosed, along with a membership list, minutes of all meetings, and budgets and income statements. Hawaii discrimination laws include which of the following protected classes? A. Persons with HIV. B. All other options are correct. C. Persons who use a guide or signal dog. Or D. Married persons. The answer is B. Hawaii discrimination laws add marital status, HIV infection, AIDS, and use of a guide or signal dog to the federal fare. Housing laws as protected classes. Residential rental increases may be made. A. After 60 days, notice during the term of a month to month. B. After 15 days, notice during the term of a week-to-week tenancy. C. After 30 days, notice during the term of a month to month. Or D. After 30 days, notice during the term of a week-to-week tenancy. The answer is B. Residential rental increases may be made after 15 days notice to a tenant on a week-to-week tenancy. A major difference between the federal fair housing law and the Hawaii equivalent is A. The exemption for private clubs exists on the state level only. B. The federal law applies only to discrimination in housing. The Hawaii law broadly covers all real estate transactions. C. They are exactly the same. Or D. They are not the same at all. The answer is B. A major difference between the federal fair housing law and the Hawaii equivalent is the federal law applies only to discrimination in housing. The The Hawaii law broadly covers all real estate transactions. Regarding public access to shorelines in Hawaii, PASH, all of the following apply to Native Hawaiian rights, except A. Have access to underdeveloped lands privately owned for traditional cultural purposes, B. Have access to underdeveloped lands privately owned for traditional gathering rights, C. Have access to developed privately owned lands for religious needs, or D. Have access to underdeveloped lands privately owned for access to the shoreline for fishing purposes. The answer is C. Public access to shorelines in Hawaii, PASH, upheld by the Hawaii Supreme Court, applies only to underdeveloped land without buildings. PASH allows Native Hawaiians access for traditional gathering, cultural, subsistence, and religious needs on underdeveloped lands. Thus, such Native Hawaiian rights may influence some future shoreline developments or claims against title to shoreline lands. An individual may enter into legally enforceable contracts in Hawaii when that individual reaches the age of legal competence in Hawaii is A. 12, B. 16, C. 21, or D. 18. The answer is D. An individual may enter into legally enforceable contracts in Hawaii when they are 18 years of age, and the legal age of competence is 18 in the state of Hawaii. To claim a mechanic's lien for material supplied, a supplier must file a notice of the lien in the Hawaii Public Record within A. 45 days after the material is supplied, B. 45 days after the work is completed, C. 90 days after the material is supplied, or D. 60 days after the material is supplied. The answer is B. The mechanic may file a lien within 45 days of the completion of the work. The date of completion is the time when the owner or the general contractor completes the publication of a notice of completion, and an affidavit of such publication has been filed in circuit court. Who is ultimately responsible for the withholding of taxes on the sale of real property owned by a non-resident? A. The escrow company, B. The buyer, C. The seller, or D. The listing broker. The answer is B. When a non-resident of Hawaii decides to sell their home, HARPTA, Hawaii Real Property Tax Act, generally comes into play. HARPTA imposes a withholding tax on sales of Hawaii real property by non-resident persons, and the withholding obligation is usually imposed on the transferee or buyer. Condo bylaws take what percentage to change amendments? A. 80% of unit owners, B. 33% of unit owners, C. 51% of unit owners, or D. 67% of unit owners. The answer is D. Condo bylaws may be changed with 67% of unit owners voting to change the amendments. A seller is required to provide a seller's real property disclosure statement within 10 days of acceptance of the offer in all of the following transactions, except A. A sale of commercial property, B. If the seller has resided on the property for the last year, C. When the seller is not assisted by a licensed real estate agent, or D. If the buyer plans on living on the property. The answer is A. State law does not mandate such a disclosure in commercial or industrial sales. Seller real property disclosure statements are required from the seller within 10 days of acceptance of the offer in the transfer of 1 to 4 dwelling units. The disclosure is also required in for sale by owner transactions. The discount points charged by a lender on a federal VA or FHA loan are a percentage of the A. Loan amount, B. Appraised price, C. Sales price, or D. Down payment. The answer is A. Similarly to points, discount points are one-time charges equal to 1% of the loan amount for each point. What is the de minimis position discrepancy for conservation property in Hawaii? A. Half a foot, B. 1 foot, C. 3/4 of a foot, or D. 1.5 feet. The answer is D. The de minimis position discrepancy for conservation property in Hawaii is 1.5 feet. Hawaii is considered to be in regard to mortgages: A. A title theory state, B. A lien theory state, C. A Pythagorean theorem state, or D. A note and mortgage state. The answer is B. Hawaii is considered to be in regard to mortgages a lien theory state. Shannon and Bob signed a lease with a provision to waive their rights to the security deposit. Which of the following is true of the provision? A. The provision is unenforceable, but the lease is still valid. B. The provision is unenforceable, so the lease is invalid. C. The provision is enforceable because the contract is signed. Or D. The provision is enforceable only for the initial term of the lease. The answer is A. Although the provision to waive the tenant's right to the security deposit is unenforceable, the lease is still valid. Which of the following is proper conduct for a Hawaii real estate salesperson or broker, and is therefore unlikely to lead to the suspension or revocation of a licensee's license? A. Commingling others' money or property with his or her own. B. Failing to disclose that an occupant has been treated for the HIV infection. C. Failing to disclose whom the real licensee represents on the contract between the parties to the real estate transaction. Or D. Failing to provide information to the Regulated Industries Complaints Office, RICO, upon request as part of complaint or audit procedure. The answer is B. Disclosure of AIDS or HIV infection by an occupant is a violation of fair housing laws. The Hawaii Real Estate Commission may suspend or revoke a licensee for not disclosing who the licensee represents, commingling clients' money, and failing to provide information to RICO when requested. The County of Maui has control of zoning and development of land within the county, except for which land category? A. Conservation. B. Agricultural. C. City. Or D. Tourism/resort. The answer is A. The County of Maui has control of zoning and development of land within the county, except for conservation land. Conservation land is controlled and managed by the State of Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources. A broker in Hawaii may do which of the following and not have their license suspended or revoked? A. Be declared mentally incompetent. B. Deposit earnest money into the firm's escrow account. C. Display a for sale sign on a property without the owner's written consent. Or D. Memorize questions on the licensing exam in order to sell them to another person taking the exam. The answer is B. Depositing earnest money into the firm's escrow account is proper conduct. What is the primary requirement of Hawaii's Good Funds Act? A. Recording of deeds is not necessary if the deed is a deed of gift. B. Documents can be recorded only if funds were disbursed at settlement. C. Escrow cannot close until all checks have cleared or wired transfers are on deposit. Or D. Recording of documents can occur only with actual notice of disbursement of funds. The answer is C. Hawaii's Good Funds Act requires that funds are confirmed prior to the close of escrow. Which of the following is not true under Hawaii's Landlord-Tenant Code? A landlord has 14 days to return a tenant's security deposit. B. When a tenant has not paid their rent, a landlord must allow a 5-day period prior to starting eviction procedures. C. A landlord may consider a unit abandoned if the tenant is absent for 20 days and has not paid their rent. Or D. Hawaii's rent control laws are among the best in the nation. The answer is D. The Hawaii's Landlord-Tenant Code does not state that Hawaii's rent control laws are among the best in the nation. Hawaii does not have rent control laws. Which of the following situations would satisfy the biennial CE requirement in Hawaii? A. Taking a 12-hour course on using spreadsheet programs effectively in a real estate office offered by a local community college. B. Taking a 6-hour course on managing agricultural property offered by an approved CE sponsor. C. Teaching a pre-license course several evenings a week. Or D. Complete 20 hours of approved continuing education courses. The answer is D. Licensees intending to renew their license on an active status by the renewal deadline of November 30th, even numbered years, must complete 20 hours of approved continuing education courses during the biennium. The required continuing education hours include 6 hours for the commission-designated core course and 14 hours of elective credit hours. A tenant is in default for failing to pay rent on time. In Hawaii, how much written notice is a landlord required to give the tenant to pay overdue rent prior to terminating the lease? A. A business day. B. 2 business days. C. 12 business days. Or D. 5 business days. The answer is D. The landlord may terminate the lease by giving the tenant written notice to pay the delinquent rent or quit their occupancy within 5 days of receipt of the notice. If the termination section of a purchase contract is not addressed in a timely manner as per the terms of the contract, the A. Buyer is in default. B. Contingency is extended. C. Contingency is deemed waived. Or D. Seller is in default. The answer is C. When the purchase contract expires, the contract is no longer valid. The Uniform Land Sales Practice Act, ULSPA, allows how many days for the purchaser to rescind the purchase? A. 14 days. B, 7 days, C, 30 days, or D, 3 days? The answer is B. The Uniform Land Sales Practices Act, ULSPA, allows 7 days for the purchaser to rescind the purchase. Under the 1997 Hawaii law regarding de minimis structure position discrepancies in multi-unit residential property, which of the following would not be considered an encroachment? A. The corner of a roof that overhangs 10 inches onto a neighbor's yard. B. A swimming pool that was built 1 foot into the neighbor's property. C. A driveway that overruns the county right-of-way by 6 inches. Or D. A chain-link fence that crosses the next-door backyard 3 inches beyond the boundary. The answer is D. A de minimis structure position discrepancy is where a structure extends onto the adjoining property by no more than 0.25 feet, or 3 inches for commercial, industrial, and multi-unit residential property. A homeowner contracted with a construction company to put a new addition on her house. They began work on May 1st and finished on June 1st, but they were never paid. On July 1st, the homeowner sold her house to a buyer, who received a mortgage loan from Central Pacific Bank and a mortgage loan from the Bank of Hawaii. Central Pacific Bank recorded its mortgage on July 1st. The Bank of Hawaii recorded its mortgage on July 2nd. The construction company recorded a mechanic's lien on July 3rd. What is the priority of the liens? A. The construction company first, Bank of Hawaii second, Central Pacific Bank third. B. The construction company first, Central Pacific Bank second, Bank of Hawaii third, C. Central Pacific Bank first, Bank of Hawaii second, construction company third. Or D. The construction company first, then both Central Pacific Bank and Bank of Hawaii in equal amounts. The answer is B. The mechanic has 45 days from the completion of the work to file the lien, which is effective as of the date of actual commencement of the construction. Thus, the mechanic is first, then the mortgage companies as recorded. Which is true regarding independent contractors? A. Compensation is based on performance rather than hours worked. B. Brokers are responsible for car accidents by agents while showing property. C. Income taxes are withheld by the broker on all commissions earned. Or D. Brokers must provide workers' compensations insurance. The answer is A. Compensation is based on performance rather than hours worked is true regarding independent contractors. In Hawaii, the recordation of deeds and maintenance of the grantor/grantee lists is done at the A. Tax Collector's Office, B. Assessor's Office, C. County Clerk's Office, or D. Bureau of Conveyances. The answer is D. The Bureau of Conveyances in Honolulu records deeds and maintains the grantor/grantee lists. The Real Estate Commission has the authority to A. Compose the examination questions on the state exam. B. Enact the laws which govern real estate licensees. C. Administer the exams given at the testing sites. Or D. Make and enforce the rules by which all real estate licensees must abide. The answer is D. The legislature enacts law. The Real Estate Commission is authorized to write rules and regulations that have force of law. The exam questions are written by an independent testing service and reviewed by the Real Estate Commission. The testing service administers the exams. In Hawaii, what is the state conveyance tax on a property that sells for $250,000? A. $250. B. $1,250. C. $500. Or D. $125. The answer is A. $250,000. Divided by 100 equals 2,500 times 10 cents equals $250. Who is responsible for HARPTA withholding? A buyer, B. Seller's agent, C. Buyer's agent, or D. Seller? The answer is A. As property investment among non-Hawaii residents soared in popularity, the state began struggling to collect applicable taxes from out-of-state sellers. The state government enacted the Hawaii Real Property Tax Act, HARPTA, to combat this during the 1990s. Under current HARPTA regulations, a withholding of 7.25% on the amount realized must be collected when non-Hawaii residents sell real estate anywhere in the state. The law specifies the responsibility falls on the buyer to ensure the withholding occurs, not the seller. The principal broker is taking an extended vacation and is not able to find a temporary broker in charge to supervise his sales associates. What should the broker do? A. Place one of the senior sales associates in charge. B. place the brokerage firms and the sales associates' licenses on an inactive status until returning from vacation. C. Notify the real estate commission that the sales associates will be unsupervised. Or D. Tell the sales associates to take a vacation. The answer is B. Hawaii law requires that if the broker will be away for an extended period of time absence, the broker must find a temporary broker in charge. If a temporary broker in charge is not found, the office must be closed and all licenses placed on an inactive status with the Real Estate Commission. A real estate broker representing the estate of a former owner in the sale of a property knows that the property has a cracked foundation and that its former owner committed suicide in the master bedroom. The broker must disclose A. The cracked foundation, B. The suicide but not the foundation, C. Neither, or D. Both facts. The answer is A. The broker must disclose the cracked foundation. Disclosing the suicide is no longer required. A mortgage broker. A. Buys mortgages in the secondary mortgage market. B. Is a lender. C. Arranges loans between investors and borrowers. Or D. Buys mortgages and resells them at a profit. The answer is C. Mortgage brokers function much like independent insurance agents and represent a variety of lenders. Their role is to match the circumstances of individual buyers with the mortgage program best suited to their needs. All of the following are true about Hawaii discrimination law except A. There is an exemption allowing discriminatory practice in the sale of a single-family house when the owner does not use a real estate agent and does not use discriminatory advertising. B. There is a rental exemption for an owner-occupant of a 2-unit dwelling. C. A written complaint must be filed with the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission within 180 days. Or D. It broadly covers all real estate transactions, including residential, industrial, and commercial. The answer is A. Hawaii discrimination law does not allow discrimination in the sale of property, regardless of whether or not the owner uses a real estate agent. An agreement of sale transaction requires a closing for both possession and title. Which charge is not included in both closings? A. Conveyance tax. B. Preparation of documents. C. Escrow fee. Or D. Title search. The answer is A. The conveyance tax is not included in both closings. A brokerage has entered into agency agreements with both a buyer and a seller. The seller and the buyer have both signed these dual agency consent agreement. The salesperson with the brokerage has been working with the buyer. Legally, the salesperson may A. Provide comparable market data to the buyer. B. Disclose to the buyer that the seller will accept less than the listing price. C. Disclose to the seller that the buyer will pay more than the offering price. Or D. Disclose the buyer's financial qualifications to the seller. The answer is A. Legally, the salesperson may provide comparable market data to the seller after the buyer requests and receives such data from the salesperson. Which of the following actions is not a violation of license law? A. Standing outside the testing room and offering employment to new licensees as soon as they receive their passing score at the testing center. B. Placing a for sale sign in front of a house after receiving the seller's written permission. C. Advertising that individuals will receive a prize without mentioning that they will also have to attend a 90-minute timeshare presentation in order to receive the prize. Or D. Encouraging a seller to reject an offer because the prospective buyer is Catholic. The answer is B. A broker must always have permission before erecting a sign. Therefore, placing a for sale sign in front of a house after receiving the seller's permission is proper conduct. John is a tenant who serves in the military forces. He currently has a lease for a year for a home in Kapolei, Hawaii, and has lived in the home for 3 months thus far. John gets a notice that he must leave the island to serve in the military and is deploying in 45 days. Can John terminate his lease without penalty? A. He can terminate the lease without penalty if he provides the landlord with documentation and 30 days notice. B. He can terminate the lease, but he will need to pay for the remaining months left on the lease. C. He cannot terminate the lease prior to the termination date indicated on the lease. Or D. He can terminate the lease with written documentation, but he will forfeit his security deposit. The answer is A. A service member tenant may terminate a rental agreement of a term of 1 year or less without penalty or fees for early termination or liability for future rent if the service member tenant receives military orders requiring the service member tenant to vacate civilian housing and move into on-post government quarters, provided that 1. Failure to move into on-post government quarters will result in a forfeiture of the service member tenant's basic allowance for housing. 2. The service member tenant requests permission from their commanding officer to maintain their housing allowance and their request is denied. And 3. The service member tenant submits at least 30 days written notice to the landlord. When advertising real property, real estate licensees, A. must identify the MLS number of the property, B. must include the name of a licensed brokerage firm, C. may state only the licensee's phone number, or D. must include the price. The answer is B. All advertising must be made in the name of a licensed brokerage firm. A buyer enters into a purchase and sale contract to buy a house on October 20th. The closing occurs on November 15th, at which time the seller delivers the deed. The deed is recorded in the regular system, not the land court system, on November 17th. The buyer moves into the property on November 18th. In Hawaii, title would have passed from the seller to the buyer on A. October 20th, B. November 17th, C. November 18th, or D. November 15th. The answer is D. Title generally passes at the time the seller delivers the deed, in this case, November 15th. In land court properties, title does not transfer until the registrar of the land registers them. That's the last of our 100 questions. I hope you found this helpful while studying for your Hawaii real estate exam. If you want more practice, we've got plenty of quizzes and exams just like this, plus extra tools like our AI tutor, digital textbooks, flashcards, and crash course videos as part of our exam prep. Hawaii Real Estate Exam Prep is a local business dedicated to helping people just like yourself. Whether you're studying for your salespersons, brokers, or the state-only exam, we've got you covered. And if you're an out-of-state agent, we have exam prep tailored just for you. We have helped over 400 people pass the Hawaii Real Estate Exam with a 94% pass rate. So if you want to pass your Hawaii Real Estate Exam and support a local business, click the link in the description, or go to hawaiirealestateexamprep.com to learn more.